Somebody under the sound of my voice, this is your word for the day. This is your word for the season. I want to talk about hurting and healing at the same time. Say that with me. Hurting and healing at the same time. You may be seated in the very presence of our God. My brothers and my sisters, this is certainly a rhema right now and relevant word to the believers in the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Those that are walking by faith, those are standing on the word of God, those that are believing God for better days. This is an issue that we have to discuss before we move much further into this year. It is a situation that we have to deal with because the truth of the matter is just because there's a change of year and even a change of season does not mean that hurting is eliminated or that hurting automatically goes away. This text is targeted to teach us that as believers, we are all subject at any time to hurt. David writes this at a time in his life where he is hurting, and although it is a very troubled time, he moves in this text technically from tragedy to triumph. He's really struggling. He's really hurting. He's really in troubled times. But he shifts and he moves from trouble or tragedy or turbulence, as some of you are experiencing today, to a time of triumph. And there is a sovereign, simultaneous situation that takes place in the text. I want you to take note of that because you may have seen this 12th or this 13th number of the Psalm. You may have seen it before. You may have read it before. You may have heard all 6 verses. And we often like to look at the shifting that happens in the text, and we like to look at the suffering that happens in the text, and we like to look at the supplication that happens in the text, and ultimately we like to look at the singing that takes place in the text. But I want to speak directly to somebody under the sound of my voice with a transparent spirit. I want to talk to somebody this morning that can just literally say, I understand what you're talking about, Pastor, because it seems like the better I get, the harder it gets. Yeah, it seems like the better I get or the greater things get for me, the tougher life becomes for me. And so David is penning this at a very difficult time. In fact, it is a time that he's literally running from his life. He's running for his life. He's literally hiding in and out of caves. He's trying to protect himself from the terror or the fierceness, if you will, of King Saul. His life is constantly threatened. He is constantly in trepidation. He is walking by faith, but he's literally living in fear. On one side, he is trying to make sure that he is protected and trying to make sure that nothing detrimental happens to him. And on the other side, he's trying to keep his hand in the hand of the Lord. He is really dealing with a paradox in his life. It is really a contradiction. In fact, it is the paradox of his predicament. Just like many of us today have the paradox of our predicament. And the paradox of our predicament oftentimes is that we're pressing toward the mark. And we're trying to keep our eyes on the prize. We're really trusting God. But the question today is, can you really trust him when you can't trace him? That's the question on today. Can you really follow him when you can't feel him? Can you really serve him when you can't see him? Can you really praise him in your predicament? Can you really serve him when he's silent? That's what this text is about today, and I need to help you today because you've got several days in this year, and you've got prayerfully several days ahead of you in what I have determined to be a new season. You ought to determine to have a new season in your life, but there are going to be times in your season. There's going to be times in your year when you don't know what to do. In fact, I'm talking to somebody today that's in a predicament. You are dealing with the indecision of decisions. You're dealing with a situation where you really don't know what to do. You don't know how to move. You can't figure out how to conquer this circumstance. You really don't know how to overcome this obstacle. You really don't know how you're going to penetrate through this problem. You can't figure out what God is up to. And you're experiencing not only distraction, but delay. And delay is a major tool of the enemy because what delay says to us in our natural mind, what delay says to us in our natural sense is that it's probably not going to happen. What delay says to us is that we've missed the opportunity. What delay says to us is that if it hadn't happened yet, it won't happen. What delay says to us is that we probably will have to live with this the rest of our life. We'll probably have to deal with this for the rest of our days. We'll probably have to struggle with this all through the season. That's what delay says to us. But delay from God's perspective is not denial. Just because we are experiencing delay does not mean that God is not on the job. Just because we're experiencing delay does not mean that God is not up to something. Just because we're experiencing delay does not mean that God is not getting ready to do something different, or getting ready to change some things, or getting ready to turn some things around. Just because we are experiencing delay does not mean that God is not on the case. Just because we are experiencing delay does not mean that God is getting ready to do a new thing. And so what happens is when we get caught up in delay, we tend to think, okay, it's not going to happen. And what happens is we have the audacity and the unmitigated gall to assume that because delay has taken place and because it did not happen on our timeline, because it did not happen when we thought it should have happened, it did not happen on our calendar, we have the audacity and the unmitigated gall to tell God that it ain't going to happen. And God says, whenever you tell me something is not going to happen, then you've counted me out. And whenever you count me out, then you've really messed up, because I can show up at any instant. And when I show up at any instant, it does not matter how long it's been. I can show up at any time, at any situation. And whenever I show up, I'm on time and I'm in time. And so the psalmist here is really baffled. In fact, King David, he's dealing now with a situation that he really does not understand how he's going to get out of, and because it is really difficult for him. Note the concern in the text. Wave at me if you got any concerns in your life. Yeah. The truth of the matter is all of us have some kind of concerns. It's okay to have a concern, but your concern ought not consume you. Do I have a witness here? All of us have some concerns in our life. I mean, if the truth be told, somebody that I'm preaching to would be honest with me this morning and transparent and would say, Reverend, you're right. There are some things I wish were different. I wish this would change. I wish this would turn. I wish I would hurry up and get through this. I wish I didn't have to deal with this another day. I wish I didn't have to cry another tear. I wish I didn't have to deal with this any longer. I really wish things would be different. I wish I never had to deal with this issue. And what do you do when your issue lasts too long? Do I have a witness here? Because sometimes I've said it before, sometimes trouble shows up and knocks on your door and leaves. But most of the time, trouble shows up with suitcases. And that trouble comes to stay. And that trouble comes to stay oftentimes for several reasons. It comes to stay, first of all, because whenever trouble shows up at your door, it shows up with a lesson. Boy, I feel like preaching. I said, whenever trouble, if you're dealing with any kind of trouble in your life today, you need to stop before you even say, Lord, get me out. Say, Lord, what's the lesson? Because whenever trouble shows up in your life, trouble shows up with a lesson. I mean, you need to take out your spiritual pen and paper and take notes, because God is trying to tell you something. God is trying to prepare you for something that you can't handle right now. And whenever trouble shows up in your life, you need to take notes, because trouble does not show up without a lesson. Trouble shows up without a lesson. And the question that you must have and I must have today is, when trouble shows up in our life, God, what are you saying? What are you trying to tell me? How are you trying to develop me? What are you trying to get out of me? What are you trying to make of this? What is the lesson in my trouble? Yeah. And so he comes with the lesson because he comes to help you. You've got to understand that trouble comes to help me. Somebody say that trouble comes to help me. He has a lesson in the trouble. It comes to help you. But not only does the Lord want to help you in your trouble, he wants you to see that he's the hero of your trouble. This is an extreme situation. It is so extreme that not only does the psalmist feel isolated, but he feels desperate. He's in an isolated situation, but he's in a desperate situation, Janice. It seems like he's in a situation that he cannot get out of it. He is at a point of desperation. Am I preaching to anybody today that understand what it means when you get in a point of isolation and desperation? Somebody listening to me, I need you to know that when you get to a point of desperation, you're really at a good point, because when you get to a point of desperation, you stop trying to figure it out on your own and you go to a rock that's higher than you. When you get to a point of desperation, you stop trying to get out of it on your own, and that's what God wants you to do. God wants you to get desperate sometimes, because when you get desperate, now God knows that is an extreme situation, and our extremity is God's opportunity. Now all I need to do is preach to a handful of folk this morning that accept this season as a season of opportunity. Yeah, that's what I need. I need some people this morning under the sound of my voice that's got faith to tell your neighbor that this is a season of opportunity. I don't care what the devil do. It's a season of opportunity. I don't care how the enemy raises his ugly head. This is a season of opportunity. I don't care what happens to me in this season. It is a season of opportunity. And whenever it's a season of opportunity, that means that God is getting ready to flip the script. And I guess I need to stop long enough to tell you, don't miss your opportunity. Tell your neighbor, don't miss your opportunity. Tell another neighbor, don't miss your opportunity. Because the season of opportunity will present circumstances that is preparing you for promotion. Now listen, you better get this. This is prophetic. I said the season of opportunity will prepare you for promotion. And you will not ever receive the promotion until you complete the assignment. Are you listening to me? Because you've got to be faithful over a few things before God can make you ruler over many things. And in this season, the question is, can God trust you with trouble? That's the question. Can he trust you with trouble? Note the concern in the text. First of all, he says, God, how long? He wants a quantified answer. Do I have a witness here? And all throughout the text, God does not normally give quantified answers. And I need to help somebody this morning because God delivers in one of three ways. Either he's going to deliver instantly, and I've seen him deliver instantly, or he's going to deliver in time. The old folks said, you can't hurry, God. You wake up the lead player. You just got to wait. Are you listening to me? He delivers instantly, he delivers in time, or lastly, he delivers in eternity. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers out of them all. And you got to understand, he's going to deliver me one way or the other. Boy, I feel like preaching. I wish you say amen and holler back at me, because either he's going to deliver instantly. Now, I'm talking to somebody under the sound of my voice that know what it means to be delivered instantly. The bullet should have hit you. The car should have hit you. The problem should have gotten you. But you escaped it instantly. And every now and then, God will put an angel in place to deliver you instantly. I wish I had somebody that can shout, because it could have been you, but God delivered you instantly. It should have been you, but God delivered you instantly. It would have been you, but God delivered you instantly. And every now and then, God will show up and deliver instantly. But more often than not, he delivers in time. That's the reason that we have faith, because it may not happen when we want it to happen. But I wish I had a witness here that know God is always on time. He may not come when you want him to come, but he's always on time. And that's the reason the psalmist says the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, which means he consecrates my steps. He coordinates my steps, and he calculates my steps. And then it comes back and said, I once was young, but now I'm old. But I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed beg for bread. And since this is the season of opportunity, that means it's the season of test, which means whenever you get to the next season, you're going to have your level of testimony, because you got to have a test before you can have a testimony. Now, is there anybody in the room that's ready for the journey? And if you're ready for the journey, you've got to expect to be tested. I'm not trying to be harsh, and I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, and I'm not trying to burst your bubble of piety with a stick pin of reality. But I got to tell you that in this season, there will be some tests, and sometimes they'll last long. But you got to know that for every test, there's a testimony. No test, no testimony. Now, is it anybody here that thought it was going to kill you, but you came out, and when you came out, your soul looked back and wondered how you made it over? Am I preaching to anybody that's been through some things, and while you were going through, you wondered how long you'd have to deal with it? I'm preaching to some transparent people. I wish I had some witnesses that know what I'm talking about. On Sunday morning, you put on your go-to-church clothes and you faith it to make it. But I need some real witnesses that know you had to cry, you had to stay up all night, you hardly could sleep, but God gave you the strength to serve him. And what David is saying is, how long do I have to wait? He's got a question here. He's wondering, he's got a serious concern. How long is it going to take for you to turn it around? How long is it going to take for you to handle my haters? How long is it going to take for you to shift my situation? How long is it going to take for you to turn this thing around? Am I preaching to anybody? You've been sick so long. You've been down so long. You've been broke so long. You've been going through so long. You've been crying so long. You've been heartbroken so long. You've been in pain so long. But how long do I have to wait? I wish I had a witness here. But as children of the Most High God, you got to learn how to wait. Why don't you tell your neighbor, we've got to learn how to wait. You've got to get a degree in waiting on God, because he may not come when you expect him to come, but he'll be on time. Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he will. Won't he do it? I say, won't he do it? Why don't you hashtag that? Won't he do it? Is it anybody here with a won't he do it praise report? With a won't he do it testimony? Is it anybody here that can wave your hand and can hashtag? Won't he do it? Won't he give you strength? Won't he heal you? Won't he do it? Won't he pay your bills? Won't he do it? Won't he fix your problem? Won't he do it? Won't he turn it around? Won't he do it? Won't he fix it? Won't he make a way? Won't he do it? Tell about 3 people, won't he do it? Come on, say it. Say, won't he do it? Say, won't he do it? Say, I got a won't he do it kind of praise. I got a won't he do it praise report. I got a won't he do it testimony. Now I need some witnesses that know you waited, but he turned it around. I need some witnesses that they scheduled you to die a long time ago, but you're still here. Is it anybody here that can shout because you're still here? The devil tried to kill you, but you're still here. Sickness tried to take you out, but you're still here. They tried to destroy you, but you're still here. Is it anybody here that know you're still here? But by the grace of God, note, he's got a concern, but notice condition. He's struggling, he's sad, and he's sorrowful. He's in a pitiful kind of situation. It seems like he can never come up. It seems like when he goes forward, he comes right back. Is there anybody here that's been on a roller coaster? You've had some good days, and you've had some hills to climb. You've had some weary days, and you've had some sleepless nights. But when you look around and you think things over, all of your good days outweigh your bad days. Is it anybody here that know God will show up in your condition? Am I preaching to anybody that's got a bad condition? Well, I need to tell you, a bad condition ain't no problem for a good God. A good God can handle a bad condition. Now, I need to talk to some people in the room that's got a bad condition. You don't have to tell me what your condition is. All you've got to do is witness to the word. If you got a bad condition, wave your hand. If you know what I'm talking about, wave your hand. He's got a bad condition, but in his bad condition, he's still committed to the living God. I don't care how dead it is. Your problem can be a dead situation, but as long as you got a living God. Do I have a witness here? In his struggle, in his sorrow, in his pain, in his broken heartedness, he called on the Lord. And if you're in the room, and if you're going to make it through this season, you got to call on God. Call on him in the morning. Call on him At noontime, call on him. In the midnight hour, is there anybody here that can call on him? Somebody declared, Jesus is on the main line. Tell him what you want. The line is never too busy. Tell him what you want. If you're sick and you can't get well, call him up. Will you help me preach? Tell 3 people. Let's call him up. I said, call him up. Call him up. The Bible declares that in your condition, you need commitment. Commitment to the only living God. Do I have a witness here? He called on him. And in his condition, he said, Lord, how long do I have to wait? But in verse number 5, note the shifting. He's got suffering. He's got sadness. He's got sorrow. But he's got a shifting. And am I preaching to anybody that understand that in your suffering, you got to shift? Get out of your valley. Tell your neighbor, I'm coming out of here. Look at a neighbor. Tell him, neighbor, I'm not staying in my situation, but I'm coming out of here. Notice confidence. He's got confidence in his God. He says, I'm going to trust in the Lord. I need some people under my voice that will declare in 2016, I'm trusting in the Lord. I'm trusting in the Lord. I'm trusting in the Lord. Look at your neighbor and tell them, neighbor, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not to your own understanding. Hey, hey, but in all of your ways, acknowledge him. He will. I said he will. Won't he do it? He will straighten your path. He will make it straight. He will fix it for you. He will. High five about 3 people and tell them, neighbor, we got to trust them when we can't trace them. We've got to learn how to dance in the dark. We've got to learn how to shout in the suffering. We've got to learn how to sing in the rain. Have I got a witness here? I don't know who I'm talking to, but I want to help somebody move from pity to praise. Do I have a witness here? Stop looking down. Start looking up. I wish I had a witness. And if you fall, make sure you fall on your back. Because when you fall on your back, the only way to look is to look up. Do I have a preaching crowd? Is it anybody here that's looking up? I said, is it anybody here that's looking up? David declares, I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. All of my help comes from the Lord, which made the heaven and the earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. In other words, he'll keep you from slipping. He will not suffer your foot to be moved. And he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. For this season, I'm not going to lose sleep. I'm going to bed. Why do I need to stay up when he's already up? Have I got a witness here? Why do I need to worry when he's up all night? And the reason I can shout when I wake up in the morning is because he was up all night. He was working on my situation. He was up all night. He was opening doors for me. He was up all night. He was taking care of business. Have I got a witness here? For this season, I gotta shout. I say I gotta shout. Stop pouting. Start shouting. Stop tripping. Start trusting. Get out of your pity. and start praising. Is there anybody here that feel like praising God? Why don't you tell the person next to you, let's praise the Lord. Tell them, oh, magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. He's getting ready to turn it around. Shout for your change. Shout for your breakthrough. Shout for your deliverance. Shout for your victory. Shout for what he's getting ready to do. High five your neighbor and tell him, get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. God is going to turn it around. Is there anybody here that know he specializes in turning it around? He can turn sickness around. He can turn disease around. He can turn brokenness around. He can turn pain around. He can turn heartaches around. He can turn marriages around. God is getting ready to turn that thing around. But you don't have to wait till the battle is over. You can shout now. I wish I had somebody that can shout for your tomorrow, can shout for your future, can shout for your breakthrough. I may be hurting, but I'm healing. I got a sorrow, I got a suffering, but I got a shout. I got a pain, but I got a praise. Is there anybody here that's healing while you're hurting? Why don't you give him praise? Why don't you give him glory? Weeping may endure for the night, but joy. Oh, but joy. Joy. Come on, praise him in your pain. Come on, worship him in your handicap. Come on, give him glory in your sickness. Come on, shout in your sorrow. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy. Is there anybody here that know joy is coming? Tell about 3 people. Joy is coming. 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 Joy. I'm closing this feeble message. I'm not going to pick on you, but one more time. Look at that neighbor next to you and say, neighbor, after all I've been through, I still have joy. Look at him and say, neighbor, it's been hard. I've had to cry sometimes, but I still have joy. Say, neighbor, folk that I trusted turned around on me, but I still have joy. Tell them, neighbor, after all that we've been through, we still have joy. And since I've got joy, that means I've got a praise. And since I've got joy, that means I've got peace. And since I've got joy, that means I give him glory. I've got joy. Come on, how many of you got joy this second week of the year? I got a concern, but it's not consuming me. I got a condition because I've got delay, but it's not denial. I've got commitment because I've learned though he slay me, yet will I trust him. I need about 40 people in here with a yet praise. I need about 40 people in here with a yet praise. That's all I need is some people in this room. Don't be so cute and so sophisticated and so stuck in your feelings. I need about 40 people with a yet praise. I mean, come on, if you got a yet praise. If you got a yet praise. Yet praise. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. For I know that my Redeemer lives. He shall stand in the last day upon the face of the earth.